Good day, everyone. I'm glad you could all virtually join me today. Today, I'll be providing a brief introduction on Chef's platform strategy and how that strategy will help inform the direction and the future of Chef. Before we move much further, let's take a moment to introduce myself. My name is George Westwater. I joined the team in December of 2021. I'm currently a director in the product engineering organization. More specifically, my role of director is over configuration management and application delivery, often just referred to as Chef and Habitat. Please feel free to reach out to me at any point in time in community Slack or via email with questions, comments, or other items that might come out of this particular session here today. You can reach me on community Slack at George Westwater or email george.westwater@progress.com. Today's session will be rather brief on a very deep topic. So we're going to start by reviewing the agenda and then move right into the meat of the content. The very first thing we're going to cover is reviewing a few definitions and our overall objective in moving to this platform strategy. We're then going to talk a little bit about our three main guiding principles and how they hope to shape the new features and services. After that, we're going to review the layers of the stack. What makes up a platform, what's going into it, what do we consider those major components, and the surrounding ecosystem. At the end, we're going to discuss two important items. The items we're actively working on, the items that are under development, and how you can help impact and shape those, and you can get more information on the items we're working on as well. With all that out of the way, let's jump right in and see if we can define exactly what a platform is. So the question at hand is, what is a software platform? If Chef is moving to a platform, and this is going to inform our strategy, what is it? If you took some computer science courses in college or university, you may have run across a definition. Maybe the definition sounded something like this: a complete software programming development environment, an underlying subsystem with language, runtime components, and all associated libraries and binaries. The result of using such a platform was a software application. This is a fantastic definition for platforms such as Java or Microsoft.NET. Doesn't really fit where we are today. And the term has evolved a lot in the industry. Now, the industry often thinks of a platform as anything that you can possibly build on top of. So no longer are we just considering ourselves the underlying computer system or the underlying compute system, but something that you should be able to build or extend. One of the ways it's often referred to or considered is when a piece of software allows you to do other things that were not originally envisioned at the time of its initial design. That could be a platform. That's a pretty generic definition, and it can be extended to things like your smartphone, where the smartphone itself has an operating system, is intended to make phone calls, but it was never necessarily intended to play Angry Birds, so that's extending it in that way. Or a CRM, such as Salesforce, that never knew about your specific data models or domain models or processes. A public cloud, such as AWS, Azure, or GCP, or even a game such as Roblox that never knew or never intended for you to build that particular type of game or extend it in that particular way. Although I think that's an important component of a platform, that almost feels like an extensible piece of software more than necessarily a platform itself. So to me, when I think about this, it really falls into the definition of extensible software, which is a software product or a set of tools from one company that comes in one package, where everything is contained within that package and is designed to work together. It can be extended, albeit challenging, to add new tools or extend it to items or features that it never initially came with or didn't come in that initial package, but possible. I would like to marry these up and summarize it into a new simplified definition that we would like to move forward. So as I mentioned platform, this is the definition I'm using. This is the way I consider to be our platform of the future. A platform is a set of integrated software components and the surrounding ecosystem where the value not only comes from the features it delivers to you initially, but from its ability to connect external tools, teams, data, and processes. I believe that this extends what we just talked about there, saying that you should be able to build on top of it, but I need to derive value by itself in a standalone environment. I need to be integrated. I need to understand more. I need to be greater than the sum of my parts. And I need to understand more about your environment. Now, let's see a couple terms here and why these are important to what we're talking about today. I've underlined a few key items here that I want to pay special attention to. As we start to move past a traditional product and build this platform, I want it to be integrated. and not just integrated in the standpoint of how Chef Infra is integrated today with Chef Infra Server. I want all of the products and services and suites and tools inside of the Chef portfolio to be integrated, deeply integrated into an internal ecosystem and a surrounding ecosystem. Now, when we mention and I talk about generating value, or when we think about extending it, I want there to be intrinsic value for using Chef, but I also want there to be value for all of the services inside your environment, all of the services inside your network, all the things that you've invested in. So we want Chef to gain additional value by integrating with your CMDB. And we want your CMDB to have additional value by integrating with Chef. And we want to connect Chef and the platform to additional tools, teams, data, and many, many of your processes that we might not be part of today. Can we do all of these? Maybe. Every environment is different. We're never going to lose the heart of Chef, which is a series of tools that you can configure and put together to use in the way that suits your business properly. We're just trying to move to a little bit more prescriptive of a process here. Now, this is all great, but let's think about the objectives we have. Why is this important to us? What are we trying to do? These are the 4 key objectives in moving to a platform that we're hoping you, the users, can start to derive value from. First, when we think about integration, we want all users, regardless of the team, department, or knowledge of Chef tools, to realize value from the platform, while continuing to ensure that we remain true to our everything is code roots. That level of integration across all service offerings needs to be presented in a unified user experience. That user experience might be a graphical user interface, it might be a more cohesive set of APIs, or it could be an enhanced version of the CLI where everything is in one area together. In reality, we're planning on all 3 of those things. We'll learn more about that in a little bit. We also want your investment in Chef to improve the processes in your organization and allow you to better leverage your existing investments in technologies. So we need to be more adaptive. We need to integrate tighter. And we need to really consider ourselves as making your experience and your processes improved by Chef. We also want to be flexible and scalable. When you think about this as addressing the needs of our users, regardless of the scale that you're at, whether you have 2 nodes or 2 million nodes, we need to be highly available and scalable by default and by design. We need to meet and exceed your expectations on uptime, ease of use, and reduction in patch management and operational investments. So when we think about this, that ultimately leads to some amount of flexibility that we need to offer you. And we want you to be able to operate Chef in your preferred environment. This platform itself should be deployed in your cloud, in your data center, on bare metal, in a VM, potentially in your own Kubernetes or EKS, AKS, GKS, maybe running out of a SaaS environment that we manage on your behalf, or a partner environment using something like a managed service. These are a lot of changes. These are a lot of large objectives. We're going to see 6 items that we're working on that hopefully start moving us in this direction, 6 key initiatives that we're engaged in right now. But I do want to assure everybody, this isn't going to happen overnight. And this isn't a hidden end-of-life announcement for your favorite product. This is really all about providing incremental evolution, delivering value to you incrementally, one subsystem or one feature at a time, in a significantly more iterative way than we've done in the past. As we move to this microservice-based platform, we're planning to be able to deliver to you independent services that are designed to simplify and reduce obstacles for building additional services. This incremental evolution that we're embarking upon comes with a simple idea. Simple things need simple services. Complex things are made up of many services. Now, we understand that every time we ask you to touch the environment, every time we build a piece of code, every time we deploy it, every time we do that, we're asking for operational responsibilities on your side. So as we move into this microservice-based model, we're being very considerate about the cost of adding, deploying, and management of these services. It's not just about the time it takes to code these. It's about the investment that you have to do to keep them running, to have them integrated, and to feel their ultimate value. So when we think about all these items, and we think about those objectives and this incremental evolution, in order to help us stay on the path, be true to this, we've developed 3 guiding principles. All of the services that we build, all of the features we deliver to you, should have some root in these guiding principles. These guiding principles may also represent a fundamental shift for some of you in the way that we describe the software, or the way that we plan user experience, or the way we even construct or segment it. But I assure you that we're going to go all through this process here, and these 3 items, automate everything, reach everywhere, empower everyone, are hopefully going to see how we're shaping the future of the platform with all of the feedback you've provided in mind. Now, of course, as we dive deeper into these items, let's be realistic about the expectations here. Again, this isn't something happening overnight, and these are lofty guiding principles. Let's take automate everything, for example. You might not choose to automate everything in your environment. That might not make sense in your environment. So there's some caveats. We want to automate everything when applicable, reach everywhere in your environment, and empower everyone regardless of team, experience, or role. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into those. One last guiding principle, or you can think of it more as an ideal here, is as we implement these 3 items, as we move towards that platform, as we reach those objectives, Chef wants to be prescriptive by design and flexible by nature. We are an incredibly flexible platform right now. I don't think anybody who's listening or watching would say that they run into a situation where there wasn't a way to do something in Chef Client, or that you couldn't write some kind of inspec profile. We've always been flexible. What we've lacked is a little bit of prescriptiveness. So now we're going to design the prescriptive solutions to your problems. We're going to start designing in those user journeys based upon your feedback, the most common problems, without losing any of the flexibility. In fact, I hope by the end of this presentation, you realize that we're actually going to become more flexible while becoming more prescriptive. Now, let's dive into those individual guiding principles and talk a little bit about each one of them. Now, I mentioned automate everything before, and I mentioned automate everything with the caveat of everything that makes sense. This could be your desired state configuration. This could be your security and compliance. These are items that happen every day now. Maybe you're doing DSC every 60 minutes, Chef Client is running. Maybe you're doing inspect scans or compliance scans daily or as part of a Chef Client run in compliance mode. But what about those infrequent or on-demand actions? We want to be part of those as well. A particular job that only needs to run every 3rd Thursday, or maybe an action that on demand needs to run on a subset of machines. First target my development machines, then my QA machines, then production. What about in response to automatic events? Your configuration systems, your intrusion detection systems raise an event. We should be able to respond to that event. We should be able to automatically take corrective action. Now, of course, this is also a journey, and these tools, these integration points that we're going to be providing you should allow us to be part of that conversation for automating everything. That doesn't mean we're going to be the automation tool for everything in your environment. We're not a RPA solution, robotic process automation. We're not going to be the perfect tool in the toolbox for every job, but we want to make sure that there are tools in our toolbox to augment and provide additional value with those tools, be it from a configuration perspective, or logging, or monitoring, or deployment, or delivery. Whatever it can be, if we can provide aid in making that a more unified experience, we want to be there. We want to be part of that conversation. The next one was reaching everywhere. So I've got a little moniker here on the slide. The thing we're thinking about is one platform for your environment. What does this mean? Let's start with the simple answer. What about deploying this new platform? Where can it be deployed? It could be deployed on bare metal VMs in your data center, just like you do today, or maybe on virtual machines in your data center, like you might be doing today. What about in your cloud environment? What if you want to deploy it inside of Kubernetes, EKS, AKS in your cloud, or on-prem in OpenShift, or maybe your own bare metal Kubernetes deployment? What if you don't want to manage that at all? You would like it to be a SaaS-based deployment or managed services. Those all need to be options. But this goes past where you install the platform. This is about providing value and reaching everywhere that you are responsible for managing today. This could be the devices, the endpoint devices, desktops, laptops, other components there. This could be edge components and IoT components that are running in your connected factory, that are running in your yard on your managed Raspberry Pi devices, whatever that might be. We want to extend past the traditional data center into those areas and show you how we can deliver value for you today in all of the items that your team is responsible for building, operating, securing, or deploying. Again, This is a long-term goal, and we're going to continue to stretch the definition here and continue to reach further into your environment, either through native solutions or integrations. This, again, doesn't have to be us, but we'd like to be powering your environments and your solutions. The last one here is empowering everyone. We really want to make sure that you can work where you want, be it the UI, the CLI, or the API. And you can work the way you want, be it a no-code solution, a low-code solution, or native code solutions. This becomes really important. For us, we want to spend a lot more time investing in the UI to give you a ClickOps or no-code approach to extend the number of people that are using Chef out across your organization. Now, everything you can do in the UI, you're going to be able to do in the API. Everything you can do in the CLI today, you're going to be able to do in the API as well. We're not taking any additional options away. We're not removing any power or obfuscating any solutions. We're giving additional options so that your users, your organization can spend the time working where you want, and you can work the way you want. So I mentioned UI. This could be that you're writing native code, you're writing policy files and cookbooks that can be deployed or run on demand through a UI with one click. Maybe you'd like to move into writing low-code solutions. You want to spend more time with a more declarative YAML language for writing cookbooks and handling compliance. Maybe you'd like to have that YAML declarative component describing those jobs that can move across the environment I mentioned earlier. The goal here is to be prescriptive by design, to have a UI that's very prescriptive, very intended for you to solve problems, but to be flexible, ensuring that you have all of the capabilities that you need to customize the tools and extend the tools the way you want. Next, we're going to look at the platform stack. And when I talk about the stack, I mean the items that we think make up that platform. These are big rock items. We're not going to go into too much depth on each one, but we're going to start at the bottom of the platform and work our way up, just as a description, so you understand all of the things that we're thinking about that make up a platform. So of course, we start with the storage layer, where you have transactional content, databases, content storage, things that we have to manage. This can be today the existing platforms or referenced by the existing platforms. Maybe this is where your cookbooks are stored or your inspect profiles. This is also the Postgres database or the OpenSearch databases that are there. This option could be extended in the future to different types of data stores, different types of integration layers. And above that, extending the storage or utilizing the storage more corely, we have core services. When we think of core services, these could also be considered foundational services. These are things that every other service needs: authentication, authorization, telemetry, eventing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Things that if you are going to build a feature inside the platform, you will use every time. On top of that, shared services. These are more abstract services. They're used by one or more application domains. You may need to use those as we're building and deploying new features. You may not. Things such as reporting and scheduling. On top of these shared services, we have domain layers. The common sets of services that we have today, the things that we're exporting or exploring. Items such as app delivery, where you might have services that are specifically designed to deal with depot and moving packages, moving heart files across different channels and tags. It might be infrastructure management, where you're managing your Chef client run list. It might be compliance, where you're seeing reports and you're seeing outputs and scheduling and running your compliance scans. It could be cloud security or other features as we choose to add them, or maybe as you choose to add them into the stack itself. On top of this, we have what we're calling the control plane. To simplify this, this is really about access, high availability, scaling, and monitoring. It's your entry point from the outside world into the environment, into that platform stack, and it's spitting off telemetry for you to be aware of how the health of items are, what's going on, what the access permissions are. Is anybody trying to do things or throwing off data that they shouldn't be? You'll access that with APIs. Maybe you'll use those APIs directly or through a client library. Maybe you'll use our native agents, or you'll do it through a GUI or some other user interface. But you'll notice there's one box remaining, or there's at least one blue line here. And this is one of the most important pieces. I talked about us being extensible and being part of a greater ecosystem. So to do that, we have this box called Connector Services. Connector Services can be thought of as a dedicated hexagonal integration point. Designed to adapt and integrate to third-party systems, to extend the functionality and effectiveness of both systems. So you can think of this connector as a mechanism for us to take an internal service and use something you've already invested in your organization as the way to fulfill that service, or the other way around, something you've invested in the organization to bring that service internally to add additional value to something that we've built. And we're going to see a little bit more of an example of that coming up here shortly. But now that we've looked at all the parts of the stack, and I'm sure I've said the word services, I don't know, 2 dozen times, probably on this slide alone, let's take a moment to describe what some of these services are and the couple pieces that make up a service before we move on to some of the more fun conversation. Now, what I want to think of when I think of all services, or when we say what are services, all things are service. All things are services, regardless as if they're core services, shared services, or domain services. A service can be described as a single thing or a collection of things, but the intent of each service is to be as small as required to solve the responsibility it was given, and to clearly identify the responsibility of that service, making sure that we have a known lifecycle, upgrade, operational, and test pattern for every single service. For example, security might be made up of a subservice for authentication and authorization, or auth-n and z. But secrets management might be a single service. Many of these services will be exposed via the control plane through public APIs. However, some of these services won't. They'll be exposed only internally and accessible inside the control plane, and no routing outside. In addition, many services will support adapters, that hexagonal configuration I was talking about, or connections to those connector services, allowing configurable implementations. For an example, maybe secrets management. Let's look at that one and say that you have a native secure data bag solution as an implementation. Or maybe you've invested in HashiCorp Vault or Achilles, and you'd like secrets management to be a proxy for those, where our API and our system provide the translation layer to that one, to that external system, that existing technology investment. Fantastic. That's where we're trying to go with these components. So when you think of a service, when you hear us talk about service, just think about it as responsibility boundaries. Small, single, dedicated responsibilities that are either exposed publicly or internally. They live at some level of the service plane here, which gives them or gives you an idea of the scale, consumption, and usage. And of course, many of them will be able to be configured through multiple different implementations. Now, before we move on, I do want to do just a quick recap. So we've discussed our definition of platform as a set of integrated software components and a surrounding ecosystem, where value comes not only from its features, but from the ability to connect external tools, teams, data, and processes. Hopefully the platform stack, albeit at a high level, illustrates how we're moving to a highly integrated set of components that are both prescriptive by design, yet flexible by nature. Prescriptive in the ways that you can access them, but they could be rearranged by you to be flexible and solve additional problems. In addition, hopefully the description of connector services can provide the platform and you with a clear understanding and a clear method to connect to external tools, teams, and data, to give us that extension component where we can become part of your existing ecosystem, where we can enhance the investments you've already made in services like Vault and Achilles, or maybe extend and enhance your configuration management solution, your CMDB. There's one important thing I haven't talked about in that description so far, and that's the ecosystem. So we're going to spend just a few minutes thinking about the ecosystem and how the ecosystem has to support the platform and the platform has to support the ecosystem. To do this, I'm going to define the ecosystem with 4 bubbles that surround Chef. These are both groups of people, but also points in time, perspectives, personas, whatever the word that you might be looking here. We're going to start with implementations, because every Chef journey starts with implementations. This could be considered more than just implementations. It could be implementations, customizations, and operations. You may have an existing in-house team that does this. Maybe you call them a platform team or a shared services team. Maybe they're part of a shared services or corporate systems organization. Maybe you're leveraging this through a managed service through a partner. Maybe professional services helped you with your implementation. Maybe you found somebody in the Chef Partner Network to do that. Or you hired a series of certified Chef professionals to come in and customize or extend the platform. Or maybe yourself have a series of certified Chef users or experienced users that did this. When we think about implementation, the next thing that often follows is, tell me about your existing ecosystem. What have you invested in? So let's talk about partners. We want you, the user, to feel empowered to choose the right module for your requirements, be it from existing solutions you've invested in, best-of-breed market solutions, or Chef native features. The best example that I can give just reinforces what we talked about before. If you've already made an investment in a security or secrets management solution, such as a keyless or HashiCorp Vault, we should leverage that solution. We also talked a little bit about extending solutions, such as your CMDB and other areas. We're going to talk or see, hopefully, a little bit more examples of that here in the future. I do want to be clear, we envision a future where you can browse and download integrations to these partner systems. It's not something that you have to tack on or other areas. Call it a marketplace, call it a shopping cart, whatever have you. We want to make it easy for you to find those integration solutions, deploy them, and manage them inside your environment. Now, this next one here is, once you've had partners, I want to think about extensions, because integrations don't just end when you find partner solutions. You have existing processes, you have legacy components that you've built, you have custom widgets that need to be connected. So we consider extensions, interoperability with commercial and open source projects, to be a key tenet of the definition of the software platform. We want to be better together with your environment. We want to provide a better overarching user experience for you and everybody in your organization who's using Chef. But this means not only do we have to support those standard commercial and open source packages, we have to let you expand the functionality, integrate to your existing private solutions. Maybe these private solutions require you to build a new UI module. Fantastic. What about an entirely new service to deploy components that are using other services? You should be able to do that as well. All these extensions should be considered a key component to the platform. And just like the partner system, we envision a future where there's a simple marketplace for these extensions, where you can share them, download them, rate them, install them. And who knows, maybe in the future, there's a chance for you to monetize something or across that network as well. But at the moment, we're really worried about providing you additional value, being able to find these components, reduce the operational burden, the undifferentiated heavy lifting of installing and managing subsystems, and allowing you to share code extensions freely across the network. Now, finally, Chef wouldn't be anything without the users. So ultimately, the platform itself needs to support our user community. And this can be done in the form of more integrated user interfaces to lower the barrier for entry for new Chef users and new experiences themselves. Or it can be based upon new prescriptive solutions, workflows that walk a user through components, external tools, such as our community Slack or community events. But ultimately, we really want to make sure that our users, regardless of the role in the company or experience using Chef products, can collaborate together, and they can do so in an open, safe environment where we can freely exchange ideas, extensions, implementation tricks, talk about the best integrations that we've had with partners and how those experiences have bettered our organization. So we want to expand, we want to extend those user communities today. Now, sadly, given the time constraints, I'm probably going to spend the least amount of time on the next couple bullet points, which to some of you might be the most important topics. So let's not waste any more time talking about these items. And let's roll into the next topic here, talking a little bit about active projects. We all love project code names, right? So we're going to talk about 6 project code names here, or 6 projects that each have a code name. Now, each one of these should be moving us in the direction of that platformization of Chef, towards realizing those objectives. They should all be aligned to those 3 guiding principles: automate everything, reach everywhere, empower everyone. Hopefully, at the end of this, you'll see the story we're starting to weave together and how items are going to be related to each other in the future. First up, Courier. Project Courier is an ad hoc or advanced scheduling platform that allows you to run jobs on demand or with those advanced schedules. It's about job orchestration across groups, across dynamic ranges of your nodes in your environment. And it's done through extensible interpreters. So your jobs themselves don't need to just be a cookbook. It could be a cookbook, an operating system command, an inspect command, a habitat execution, or whatever it is you choose to extend. Maybe you write an interpreter that knows how to speak to your internal CMDB solutions for ticket management. Maybe you have an interpreter that's able to run your virus scanner, or whatever have you. We are helping orchestrate and run jobs across your environment. This is under active development. In fact, In the next 3 months, certain beta customers or certain early participants in the process here are going to be helping us through demos and active hands-on keyboard experiments to make sure we're solving your needs. If you want some more information on Courier, reach out to me on community Slack. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to walk through those architectures, those designs. We're prepared to share all that information right now. What does it look like? What's it going to do? What's the makeup of a job? Even down to the bits and bytes of the way the architecture is going to look. Project node management. This is really a reimagining of what it takes to add a node into Chef or bring a node under Chef management. So adding a node into our ecosystem or bringing a node under management. This starts to think about nodes being enrolled with various different levels of enrollment. For example, a machine that happens to be running Chef client on there might be enrolled at one level. One that's installed both Chef client and Courier might be at a different level of enrollment. Really starting to describe the levels of enrollment based upon what you can do to those environments, what you can do to those nodes. This, of course, means we're going to extend this. Node management is also going to be about discovery, enrollment, as well as upgrades and prescriptive workflows for those upgrades. So how can node management help you upgrade from Chef Client 17 to 17.2? I'd love to have that conversation and talk to you a little bit more about how that works. Also, how can node management make it easier to install the ecosystem on a new node, be it an ephemeral node that's being spun up in a cloud environment or a new image based upon VRA and a golden image? I'd love to discuss how we can help with that enrollment process as well. Finally, the intent here with node management is to be an integration point to your software asset technologies, to your CMDB. The idea here is to provide you one view of the nodes that Chef is aware of, be it discovered through Inspec, your CMDB, or through client administrations, allowing you to build queries, explore the health of those nodes, and understand them from an environment-first perspective. Subsetting groups, maybe these are the items in my data center, these are the ones in my cloud environment. Or building queries or subsets of these networks that can be used via Courier. When Courier and node management come together, not only can I say run this job every third Thursday, I can say run this job every third Thursday on every Amazon Linux 2 operating system that's also running WebSphere. That level of control around job targeting and node management is where we start to see that deeper level of integration that we're talking about, better together. If you don't have a CMDB system, we can give you some real-time awareness of what we're aware of. But if you do, Courier can extend itself past those and saying, let me also query based upon the attributes that are inside your CMDB. Which department owns these machines? Run this job only on the data science department's development machines. Status for this one is currently under development. We're in early stages of development on this one and would love your feedback on the requirements and what an MVP looks like. Please, again, join us on Community Slack to talk more about this one. Next, Project Canister. This is around centralized control over agent capabilities. So today, when you enroll a node or you bring a node under management of Chef, you install Chef Client on that node. We want to give you some additional options. Chef Client is fantastic. It's sitting there, it's running as a service or a cron job or a daemon in the background that you're being able to manage that. But you have to have different processes in place to upgrade that system, to be able to enroll it, to be able to get it installed. Canister is an alternative to that. Let's talk more about how that alternative can help you provide centralized control over those agent capabilities, where you could say, from a central console or dashboard, every development machine in my environment should now be using Courier. Also, please install Chef 17.1. Please upgrade to 17.2, 18.0. That centralized control of the capabilities that are inside your network, all of those platform extensive capabilities that we want to have from the centralized management, extending out to the edge. Hopefully, the intent here is to reduce the amount of time that you have to do for upgrades, both major and minor. Again, remove that undifferentiated heavy lifting, the things that you have to do today that we can help automate. And we want to use this platform also as a mechanism for enhanced node reporting, health reporting. What's running on those nodes? What's the status of them? What's the last time it operated? The more we know about your nodes, the more we know about the capabilities on those nodes, the more we can communicate back again. And we start to link those components together. Courier can now use data from Canister across node management to target all of the nodes that haven't run a compliance scan in 3 weeks, who are using an older version of Chef Client. That level of control and knowledge and awareness comes back to that deep integration between our products. Canister is under active development. Again, Same as with everything else, I'd love to show you more details, describe what's going on, explain how this works, even share some of those architectural diagrams. Just reach out via email or Slack, and we'd love to have that conversation. Next, project facility. Facility is really that layer that we talked about, that control plane layer. It's enhancing our authorization workflows, giving you better control over RBAC, the types of users, the types of roles, what they can access, what resources they can and cannot, how one service can have RBAC controls across to another service. So you can think about facility as the guard or bounding box around this entire platform. It's really also intended to provide enhanced logging, telemetry services, unified authentications across all Chef service platforms. This is currently in design. This is the best opportunity to be a part of this project and start to shape the way it's looking, shape those requirements, because we haven't written a single line of code for this project yet. Project Pluggable UI. Pluggable UI is an extensible UI, unified cross-domain user experience. When I say UI in this case, I truly mean the user interface, not necessarily the graphical user interface. Pluggable UI is going to start with a new graphical user interface that provides you with a mechanism to add new screens for us at Chef to be able to change and modify and build new user experiences faster, but also as a mechanism for us to start ensuring that whatever you can do in the UI, you can do in the CLI. And whatever you do in the CLI, you can do in the API. And giving that continuity of services, giving you the ability to work where you want, how you want, using the tools that are available to you or that you've chosen to deeply integrate with. Ultimately here, the other thing to think about with Pluggable UI is about accessibility. And this isn't just accessibility in the standard way to make sure that it works if you're colorblind or if you have other particular accessibility needs. Of course, we want to address those needs. But this is accessibility for users across your entire company, regardless of their experience with Chef. It should be intuitive, easy for you to understand how to report, easy for you to understand how to run those actions, how to trigger events, how to create advanced jobs in Courier, how to see the experiences and the network through node management. And of course, how to maybe administer canisters or report on the capabilities of the facility. Pluggable UI is intended to be that next generation user experience. Last but not least of these items here is Seamless. Project Seamless is a unified API for all content access across all Chef products. Today, you've got Supermarket and you can get some content in there, but Supermarket doesn't expose heart files or habitat packages. We're looking to change that. There's a unified API for all of that content, and it's a unified content distribution for all of that content as well, starting to bring together the best parts of Supermarket with the components that you see in Habitat Builder or Depot, and adding additional support for additional services, such as content segmentation and searching, upstreams and downstreams. How can your private version of Seamless connect up to a public distribution, such as one that we're managing, or maybe that a partner has for their own content? Aggregate them down into your environment, and then maybe you should be able to distribute those out globally across different regions or different subsets. We want to offer you those segmentation capabilities you've been asking for to enhance security, to enhance distribution, enhance reporting. But ultimately, we want to bring it all together to give you that marketplace that we were talking about. So we can extend this in the future past just the content we deal with today, but to be able to add pluggable UI modules, extensions, partner integrations, additional services, a central place for you to be able to browse all of the things Chef and bring all of those things Chef platform into your environment when you're ready to do so. In conclusion, before we move on to talking a little bit more how you can help shape the platform, how you can engage, I just want to remind everybody and reboot this right back to the beginning. A platform, by our definition, is a set of integrated software components and a surrounding ecosystem, where the value comes not only from its features, but from the ability to connect to external tools, teams, data, and processes. Hopefully throughout this presentation, you've seen how we're moving to a deeper set of integrated software components than we've ever seen before. How we're building and investing in that ecosystem, the surrounding ecosystem, by those four primary archetypes. How you can see where we're driving additional value to you today from features such as Courier and Canister, but also how we're going to extend that value to existing infrastructures or to existing investments through node management and pluggable UI and seamless content. Hopefully, the pluggable UI and reaching everyone or empowering everybody in your organization starts to think about how we're planning on extending the usefulness of the tool and the value that the tool is driving to other people inside your organization. Now, we're doing all of this, hopefully, with the intent on doing those 3 guiding principles. We want to automate everything, reach everywhere, empower everyone. And we want to be prescriptive by design, yet flexible by nature. It was a lot to take in. We covered a lot of ground. So let's talk a little bit about how you can help shape the platform. Seems like we have a really good foundation, hopefully. At least I presented to you what it seems like a really good foundation. But I need your help to shape this. We have lots of open questions. Should we be investing? Should we be exposing services, data services through OData, GraphQL? With our telemetry, should that be exporting open telemetry instead of the internal protocol that we're using now? What do you want to see those connector services being? How do you want job scheduling to work? What are the types of components that are important to you in that area? And the only way we're going to be able to know that is for you to join the community. There's a seat waiting for you. You can find more information out at community.chef.io. You can read content and historical content around patch notes, community events on discourse.chef.io, or you can join our community Slack, community-slack.chef.io. Once you join, please reach out to me. Say hi at George Westwater on community Slack. If you'd prefer to communicate via email or set up a deeper dive conversation, my email address is right below as well. I want to thank everybody for taking the time that they've spent today, letting me go through this presentation with you. Hopefully it gives you a better understanding of the direction that we're going by unifying all the components together under a single platform, the why we're doing it, and the value we hope you're going to see out of it. So again, thank you very much for all the time that you spent listening to me today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.